largest carrier, has cut nearly 36 round-trip flights a day at the hub. The CEO of United said that 20% of air traffic controllers have walked off the job this week. As of September of 2023, the FAA was 2,000 air traffic controllers short of their staffing goals. Duffy said that not a single air traffic controller was cut since Donald Trump has taken office. And the last air travel news, you need a real ID to fly a domestic flight starting Wednesday. 3 corrections officers at a Virginia prison were stabbed by inmates in a premeditated attack. A total of 5 officers were injured in this attack. 5 of the 6 perpetrators are confirmed MS-13 gang members from El Salvador who are in this country legally. Each of them have been convicted of first or second degree murder and rape. The other inmate, the 6th involved in the attack, is a confirmed member of the Sereno 13 gang, and he's from America, but he's serving a sentence for second degree murder. The Department of Corrections director said 5 of these 6 individuals should never have been in this country in the first place. Lady Gaga had a free concert in Rio de Janeiro's Copacabana Beach. It's believed that 2.1 million people attended, which seems like a lot, but it got me thinking, what's the largest free concert of all time? Well, it was also on Copacabana Beach in 1994, 3.5 million people. Any guesses who it was? Rod Stewart. I'm Mike Slater, Bill O'Reilly with your message of the day. Next.
Hey, homeowners, if you haven't checked your home's title, aka your legal proof of ownership, it could already be stolen. Scammers target your equity, steal your title by forging just one document. Then they can take out loans or sell your home, all without you knowing. So you need to find out today if you are already a victim. Use promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. So please go to HomeTitleLock.com now and use promo code BILL. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BILL.
Spring is in the air, and so are the savings at Johnson Heating and Cooling. From March 15th to June 15th, enjoy ultimate home comfort and incredible deals. Get up to $1,000 in rebates, plus 0 down and 0% financing. Johnson Heating and Cooling, keeping Winsville homes comfortable and wallets happy. Offers valid March 15th through June 15th. Some restrictions may apply. Call Johnson Heating and Cooling, 636-332-4141, or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Time now for the O'Reilly Update message of the day. On this Monday, there is an important legal case going on. The Supreme Court is looking at it, but it is not being reported accurately to you. So it is my job to do that. This is the Garcia deportment from Maryland to El Salvador story. So you remember that ICE swept up a whole bunch of criminal aliens, and Mr. Garcia was in the sweep, put on a plane, sent to San Salvador, put in a prison there. You remember that happened. Mr. Garcia does not have a criminal record. So on paper, there needed to be some explanation about why he was deported. His wife is suing to get him back. The Supreme Court has issued a ruling saying the Trump administration should facilitate his return. However, that is misleading because there is a federal court case underway. The judge in Maryland has now ordered depositions to begin, I think today, all right, or tomorrow, about whether Garcia was illegally sent to El Salvador. The case centers around whether this man is associated with MS-13. That's what the Justice Department, ICE, is trying to prove. If they prove it, then he's absolutely deportable because President Trump signed the executive order saying MS-13 is a terror group. That's what's happening now. There's no defiance of the court, none of that. And the press just absolutely lies about it. But now you know the truth. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. Now let's go to the mail. Nate Bristow, Murrow's Inlet, South Carolina. Mr. O'Reilly, thank you for the information you provide. If the heads of sanctuary cities and states are not following federal law and telling their people to cooperate with federal authorities, couldn't they be charged with crime? No, you cannot be charged with a speech crime unless it's a hate crime. But if the governors or mayors or any official actively hinder the arrest of undocumented, then they can be charged, like the judge in Wisconsin and the other judge in New Mexico, both of whom, the Mexico guy had illegal living in his house, and the judge spirited one out the back door, so ICE couldn't get him. That's a crime. But just to say something is not protected. Dwight and Kathy Moose. I don't know where you guys are. Rapid City, South Dakota. Rapid City. Bill, surely you know that only twice since 1934 has a party holding the presidency gained seats in the midterms. FDR was creating massive giveaway programs, and George W. Bush right after the 9/11 attack. So why are you harping that if President Trump doesn't get this tariff thing under control, he'll lose the midterms? Not harping, reporting. Okay? There's a big difference between harping and reporting. And the reason I'm doing it is to signal to you and everybody else that Donald Trump doesn't have a lot of time to turn this around, get these tariff deals done. In a moment, something you might not know. Our healthcare system is a mess. You know that. You wait weeks for a doctor's appointment, get 5 minutes there, then face delays, insurance, red tape. It's slow, frustrating, and it's why all family pharmacy stands out in the madness. All family pharmacy believes in medical freedom, meaning you decide what works for your health, not some agency or insurance company. Ordering is simple. Waiting rooms, pharmacy lines. Just go online, place your order, and get medications delivered right to your door. They offer 200 medications, including ivermectin and antibiotics, plus emergency kits, customized orders, even bulk buys. More than 100,000 Americans already trust all family pharmacy. It's time you check them out. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use promo code BILL10 for 10% off. Take your health into your own hands. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill, code BILL10.
Attention St. Charles, looking for a local spot that satisfies all your cravings? Mario's Donut Restaurant is your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches and omelets to delicious gyros, Mexican dishes, salads, and wraps, we've got it all. And don't forget our famous donuts. They're so good, they'll make your eyes glaze over. Dine in or carry out, our friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit. Call 636-447-4515 or visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
Now the O'Reilly update brings you something you might not know. 80 years ago this week, the Nazi regime was collapsing. Adolf Hitler's empire, which once ruled an entire continent just 36 months earlier, was now reduced to a few blocks in Berlin. Here's the story behind the downfall of the Third Reich. The Fuhrer began his conquest of Europe in 1939. By 1942, the Nazis controlled 3 million square miles of territory spanning from France to Russia, Sweden, to North Africa. All of that changed in 1943 when the Germans were defeated by the Russians at Stalingrad. 1 year later, the Allies landed in Normandy, France. Well, that was the beginning of the end. The march towards Berlin had begun. By May 1945, the Nazi Empire had been reduced to 3 square blocks. A few days earlier, Hitler committed suicide in his underground bunker. Outside, the German capital was completely obliterated. 90% of all buildings destroyed. Civilians faced extreme food shortages, lack of water, no electricity, few medical supplies. Meanwhile, Soviet soldiers entered Berlin. Snipers fired freely at women and children. Tanks blasted roads during the day. Bombs were dropped by planes at night. Berlin's population, once 5 million, was reduced to 900,000. The Soviet army raped women at will. The defense of Berlin was left to senior citizens and teenagers. The gates surrounding the German high command were guarded by children as young as 13 years old. On May 7th, Nazi General Alfred Jodl signed an unconditional surrender at the Allied headquarters in France. The conflict in Europe was over. And here's something else you might not know. It would take Germany nearly a half century to recover from the catastrophe of World War II. After the surrender, the nation was divided into 2 states, East Germany under the Soviet Union, West Germany, a democracy. But the German people were not unified until 1990, after the fall of the Soviet Empire. Back after this. Are you feeling the impact of recent timeshare industry changes? Now more than ever, the costs of timeshare ownership far outweigh the benefits. My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you get out. Our listeners' positive feedback demonstrates why I've supported the company for years. For more than a decade, they have helped over 20,000 owners get out of the timeshare. Their exclusive options can help you get out faster and easier, more than any other option in the country. They are the only company that will give you a written guarantee and release you from your timeshare in a specific time frame. With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, thousands of 5-star reviews, customer service is their top priority. For free consultation and a guaranteed solution, please call 855-551-7066. That's 855-551-7066, or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump says the U.S. will offer money to illegal immigrants who voluntarily return to their home nation.
What we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't.
The Trump administration says it will pay immigrants in the United States illegally $1,000 plus travel costs if they leave voluntarily, as it accelerates its mass deportation agenda. There's been a Houthi attack on Israel's airport just before Israel's cabinet voted to take over the whole of Gaza and stay there indefinitely.
Yemen's Houthis have vowed to continue attacks on Israeli airports after a missile launched by the Iranian-backed rebels on Sunday briefly halted flights and commuter traffic at Israel's main international airport. Houthi military spokesman Brigadier General Yahya Sari made the remarks in a video statement. Israel's paramedic service said 4 people were likely wounded. The attack on Ben Gurion International Airport came hours before Israeli cabinet ministers voted to take over the whole of Gaza and stay there indefinitely. I'm Karen Shabazz.
The Army is pausing flights near a Washington airport after 2 commercial planes had to abort landings last week because of an Army Black Hawk helicopter that was flying to the Pentagon. An earlier collision between an Army helicopter and an American Airlines plane killed 67 people. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 98 points. The Nasdaq dropped 133. More at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your boat, boat wins.
What are you going to do? Take the boat out for a spin or go mail something? Boat wins! Are we cleaning the patio or taking the boat out fishing? Boat wins! Are we skipping that eye exam to go sailing? Boat wins!
Rescheduling eye exams can be a nightmare.
All right, fine. Eye exam, then boat. Yeah!
With Progressive, you can bundle your boat with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings on your boat. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company of affiliates and other insurers not available in all states and situations.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there. Very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid-70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law. There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Out of nowhere, they said, maybe you have to have trials. We're going to have 5 million trials. Doesn't work. But hopefully the Supreme Court will save it. You know, past presidents took out hundreds of thousands of people when needed. You look at Eisenhower, you look at many of them, and they took people out and they didn't go through any of this. But what we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from.
406, and welcome into the Cinco de Mayo edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And what a way to honor the holiday there, Tim, by telling all of the illegal citizens and those of Mexican descent and all over the world who have come into our country illegally that we'll give you $1,000 and a plane ticket or a bus ticket on the way home. I'm sure the media is going to definitely pan this, but if you really think about it, It's much cheaper than rounding these people up, putting them on government flights, which costs tens of thousands of dollars per hour to send these folks over all over. Look, for a plane ticket, $400 or $500 and $1,000, $1,500, we can send you home. It's really kind of smart, Tim.
It is indeed. Well, being that Cinco de Mayo is a celebration for the Mexicans in Mexico and has absolutely nothing to do with the United States of America, other than it's something else that we've Americanized, and we think it's a great occasion to drink margaritas and eat tacos. I think this is a great day to announce this song. We can liberate them from our country and send them back to theirs.
I love it. And that is my partner, former Speaker Tim Jones. He, of course, is in the swamp today, broadcasting live from Studio Shore. I hear the background there and the noise there in the background, Tim. We've got what? Go ahead.
That was State Senator Nick Schroer. He just stopped by and he just left. He stopped by and he heard me say that. And he goes, "We love him so much. We're sending him back home."
Send him back home. I love it. Tim, it is May 5th. We got 10, 11 days till the end. 9 days. Until
9 legislative days
of the session. You're up there in the swamp. You are dealing with this. Where are we at right now, legislatively?
All right, Chris, presuming that they're not in session this Friday, which they could be. So I guess at maximum, let me retract my comment and restate it. 10 legislative days maximum. So maximum Monday through Friday this week. The General Assembly is usually in session on Friday on its final week. That's next week. Chris, the legislature will go sine die. They will adjourn next Friday, May 16th at 6 p.m. The gavels will drop. The session will be over. Any piece of legislation that does not make it across the finish line will be dead and will have to be refiled next year. Chris, here's what they have to do between now and next Friday. They have to complete the budget. And I will say this, there's a lot of drama on the budget this year. Governor Kehoe and the House are on one side, and the fella that I love to call liberal Lincoln Huff, because that's what he is, the state senator from Springfield. Yeah, he's a big lib, and he has gutted, Chris, the educational choice dollars. I know we're going to talk to Susan Pendergast about that tomorrow. The governor wanted $50 million for the Missouri Scholars Program. The House gave him every dollar of that. Lincoln Huff zeroed it out completely. And there's some other major differences between the governor, the House, and the Senate on the budget that is expected to go to conference committee this week. In addition to that, they still have to get the abortion Amendment 3 repeal and replace across the finish line, Second Amendment Preservation Act fix across the finish line, the Proposition A fix across the finish line. And in the House, they've got some very important bills. Nick Schroer has one of them, judicial deference. That's the incorporation of the Chevron decision on the state level. And the prohibition on foreign funding. That's what we spoke with State Senator Ben Brown about. Now, the senators have told me that the House has made an agreement with them to get those bills done. They don't have to deal with the filibuster in the House. So, Chris, it's very likely that those two bills will pass. We won't know for sure until they do, but there's been a promise made to the senators on that. Chris, as far as those big priority bills in the Senate, and I'll add open enrollment to that as well, that is a huge question mark. The Senate leadership team of Cindy O'Laughlin and Tony Luetkemeyer will have to decide whether or not they're going to cut off the Democrat filibuster and bring those bills I mentioned up for a vote, because they're all being filibustered by the Dems right now.
A lot of drama with just 9, maybe 10 days left in the legislative session. We've got our roving correspondent, Tim Jones, there on Mondays and Tuesdays, giving us all the inside information, Tim. And I'm sure until now, to the end of the session on Speaker's Thumb Speech, we will have some legislative guests there, some insider legislators who are in the thick of what's going on there.
Yes, I'll try to round somebody up for tomorrow. Today, they're going back into session like right now. So I will try to get somebody in here definitely for tomorrow to give us an update on exactly what's happening beneath the tent, as they might say, underneath the dome here. But lots can happen, lots going on. Oh, Chris, we had a huge, I don't know if you caught this over the weekend, huge piece of news out of Missouri. Our good friend, Missouri State Senator Ben Baker, has been nominated by the Trump administration to join the Trump administration under the USDA in the position of one of the directors of rural development. So, Chris, he will be departing the legislature immediately, and I couldn't think of a better, more deserving guy for an appointment like that than Representative Ben Baker.
I did see that, and I didn't read it too closely. For some reason, I thought that was a gubernatorial appointment, and it was something here in Missouri. But congratulations and good for him. Of course, his daughter was tragically lost. Has that been a 2 years, a year now, Tim? Time flies by so quickly.
No, it was barely a year ago.
Barely a year ago. His young daughter and her husband were over in Haiti being missionaries, and they were unfortunately murdered. That case garnered a lot of attention around the state, of course, and around the country. And he handled that with such grace and honor. It's almost unthinkable to imagine going through such a tragedy like that.
Yeah, Chris, his official title, I just found it here. He will be the Director of Missouri Rural Development for the United States Department of Agriculture. And again, we couldn't be more proud of him. Chris, he has served 7 full years, 7 full sessions in the Missouri General Assembly, in the Missouri House. He only had 1 session left, so he was going to be term limited out next year. Have no fear. The supermajority will still be here. Ben's seat is extremely red. It's extremely conservative. And so the Republicans don't have to worry about losing that seat. Temporarily, it'll be vacant, but they'll fill it again next year with a new person who will have another 8 years to go. So this is a great segue out of a great legislative career for Ben Baker. He now gets to serve the entire nation and still continuing to represent Missouri as the Director of Missouri Rural Development for the USDA.
And speaking of the nation and national news of sorts, King Abdullah II, the King of Jordan, is meeting with President Trump today at the White House. A little controversy there because Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy criticized him shortly before his visit about failing to follow through on a promise to help Palestinian children. So kind of an awkward moment, Tim. We'll talk to Jim Talent about that at 4:25. We'll also talk to the senator about Israel making a major policy change today. They will, in fact, stay in Gaza and occupy all of Gaza while they try to root out Hamas. We'll talk to the senator about that at 4:24. At 4:45, more immigration news from the president. I'll tell you about how the Postal Service is now being used to help deport people. That'll be at 4:45. Chris's Corner, 5:07, the Speaker Stump Speech.
Yeah, Chris, I've got a great piece here I found in AMAC, which is the conservative version of AARP. Yeah, Chris, I'm sorry. You and I qualify for AMAC now. Sorry to tell you that. They've got the Fab Five, not the Beatles. They've got the Fab Five political trends thus far this year. And I think our listeners will like all 5 of them here in Trump 2.0 land.
And at 5:24, we'll have our weekly chat with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com and host of Red State Radio Sundays at 4 p.m. We'll talk to her about all the top Red State headlines. At 5:45, Tim will speak with Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. We'll talk about the Hansen Memorial Foundation's sporting clay event that's coming up on May 17th at Black Hawk Valley Hunting Reserve in Old Monroe, Missouri. It's always great to talk to Chad. And of course, Hansen's Tree Service is the sponsor of the Speaker's Stump Speech.
Yeah, I think it's great. We've got Chad. Chris, we haven't spoken with Chad.
We
Can
haven't.
you believe this? Since like last November. So shame on us for not having him on. So I appreciate Chad being available today and talk about a very great. Chris, did you ever meet his dad? Did you ever meet Jeff Hansen?
I think I may have, but maybe once, twice. Never some that wasn't anything that was memorable. It was probably in a big crowd or something. It was before I was really into radio and stuff, you know.
Yeah, same as you. I never really, like you said, I may have met him once or twice. I never got to know him. I felt like I knew him though, right,
Yeah,
Chris?
I
Because
did
our good friend Jamie Allman, and I heard you on the Allman Report as I was driving to Jeff City today. Awesome hit you did, and it reminded me of those days because Jeff Hansen used to be on Allman Radio back in the day on the old station all the time. So you felt like you knew the guy because he was so friendly and outgoing and gregarious. I'm so glad that Chad and Debbie McFarland, who is Chad's sister, Jeff's sister, Debbie McFarland, who's a big fan of our station too. She may be listening right now. From everything I heard and based on my experiences with the rest of the family, Debbie and Chad, I'm sure Jeff was just salt of the earth and one of the most generous, gregarious human beings you could ever meet. And he was a big fan. He would have been a huge fan of News Talk STL. I'm sure he's looking down. Sure he's looking down on us, and he's very proud of all of us today.
Big time. And at the end of the show, it's going to be an all music movie end of the show. I've got some big news regarding things of that nature. You know, we all know, I'll give you a little tease about the end of the show. We all know that Willie Nelson was known for smoking a joint at the White House back in the 70s, supposedly with one of Jimmy Carter's sons. And this is probably an easy one, Tim, but can you think of another popular music person who may have been at the White House within the last 10 or 15 years or so that might have smoked a joint at the White House? Don't say who, but
okay. Oh, I'm not supposed to say who.
Don't say who.
All right.
But,
I can. Yes, I can. And I think you and I are thinking of the same person.
Is that a real easy one?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to get into this big story, Tim, before we get to Jim Talent regarding this bombshell book that came out regarding former President Joe Biden. According to this book, his top White House aides debated having him undergo a cognitive test to prove his fitness for a second term, but ultimately decided against the move. That's according to a new excerpt from Tyler Pager, Josh Dawsey, and Isaac Armsdorf's forthcoming book, 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. Goes on to say, Tim, Mr. Biden's aides were confident, that he would pass a cognitive test, according to the book, but they worried that the mere fact of his taking one would raise new questions about his mental abilities. What do you think about that? I'm calling BS. That's about 90% accurate. About 10% of it is BS.
You mentioned this in the past. If we had an honest, objective national media, Chris, by now someone, and look, plenty of conservatives have been blowing the trumpets from on high on this. You and I have, everybody here at News Talk STL, everyone at Newsmax, everyone at Fox News questioned Joe Biden's senility, or lack thereof, and I think there was plenty of it. Questioned his acuity, I should say, or lack thereof. But if there was someone in the quote objective mainstream from the old days who would have written a book now about this, they would have won Pulitzer Prizes and they would have been put on Mount Rushmore, right? But no one did until after it was all over. Now Jake Tapper's writing books and Chuck Todd's talking about it. Chris, this was one of the biggest media cover-ups in the modern age, and it's not being broadly broadcasted at the national level.
I remember during the Watergate era, I was about 8, 9, 10 years old. There was a movie that came out about Watergate. Robert Redford played, and I can't think of the other gentleman. He played the parts of the people in this affair. I mean, one of the White House guys, he's written books. He's probably written 10 or 12 books. He's a celebrity. This could happen if we were in a normal atmosphere. That should have happened for these people. Just to give a time frame, Tim, of when this was going about, when they were asking for possibly a cognitive test. This is when Robert Hur released his report calling Biden, quote, a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. So that kind of jogged them a little bit. It's like, maybe we should have the president take a cognitive test since he bombed so badly in the special counsel's report.
Yes.
Are these people serious?
Yeah, and I heard Chuck Todd last week. Does he have that goofy thing he calls the Toddcast or whatever?
Lame.
You know, he's doing the Toddcast.
Well, is he still doing that? Because he left MSNBC. I wonder if they trademarked that, or was that his? But anyway.
Yeah, or maybe he was on somebody else's.
He does
he's
have
not
his own
on
podcast.
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't a television show. I think it was it was his podcast or one of his lefty liberal friends' podcast. And Chris, so now they're all admitting it, right? Like they're all, but his reasoning, you should have heard his reasoning. His defense was, no. We in the media, we didn't miss anything. It wasn't our fault. It's all the people around Joe Biden. They're at fault here. They were covering up and they were preventing us from knowing the truth. Chris, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
The guy in full frontal face of everyone is shaking hands with invisible people on stages. He's wandering off randomly in fields over in Europe. Remember when Giorgia Meloni had to go like rescue him before he wandered off into a soybean field in the Netherlands? He's stuttering, he's stammering. The final major appearance of the debate last year. I mean, come on, the signs were all there. And they're saying, Chris, that they didn't catch the signals and that his administration was responsible. What a crappy cover-up.
And not even that, Tim. I mean, look, everyone knows that the media and people in Democratic administrations, it's very incestuous. They all go to the same cocktail parties. They all invite each other to each other's parties and weddings. So you can't tell me that the people that were at the White House that were talking to these reporters weren't telling these people like, yeah, the things that you're hearing, they are true. But of course, as we talked about this before, being in the media, when you talk to them, you always say, hey, this is on background. I'm telling you this so it can't be reported. But they knew, they were told by these White House officials, but it was on background for them not to repeat it.
Let me give people an analogy.
422. We got to get to Jim in a second here. But go ahead.
Chris, an analogy would be if you or I had knowledge of a state senator, representative, or a statewide elected official, we all would know there was a problem with them because you're right. We would all be talking about it at all the events that we all go to.
Exactly. All right. Let's get to Jim Talon. He's the former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. We're going to talk about Israel's new policy and the president's $1 trillion proposed budget. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there. Very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid-70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
As you all know, I've been banking with Royal Banks of Missouri for a while now, and I've been telling you about them for a while now, and I can tell you also they are the real deal. Royal Banks, Missouri, they've been locally owned since 1964, and you can feel the difference the moment you walk in. There's real people, real service, and some of the highest financial ratings in St. Louis for strength and stability. They've made my life easier, and they can yours with 17 locations plus free access to over 200 ATMs across the Midwest. And when I'm busy, I love using their interactive teller machines where you can talk to a live banker even after regular hours, weekdays till 7, Saturdays too. Whether it's a mortgage, an auto loan, or just everyday banking, Royal Banks of Missouri makes it simple, and they treat you like family. Check them out at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com, Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank for your community.
Make it happen.
Come give your mama a kiss.
Register now for your chance to win amazing prizes for mom, including gift cards from Di Gregorio's Italian Market, Jewels on Hampton, Anthony's Produce, and Harry J. Steakhouse.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Winners will be notified by email May 8, just in time for Mother's Day. Register now at newstalkstl.com or via the new News Talk STL mobile app.
Tony Colombo here for the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peters, where they have a huge selection of products and services for your yard and home, including a full line of lawn and garden products, a full line of products for animal care, and that includes anything from livestock to the family dog or cat. They'll fill any size propane tank for about half the price of a new one, and so much more. Visit them in St. Peters on 2nd Street, right behind the QT at 70 and Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, and check out all their products and services at oldtowncountrystore.com.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Being beat up and battered around, being sent up and I've been shut down.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Well, a major development in the Middle East, with Israeli officials telling the Associated Press that a new plan has been approved to seize all the territory in Gaza and then occupy it indefinitely. Now, if implemented, hundreds of thousands of already displaced Palestinians would be pushed to southern Gaza.
And 427 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and a major policy shift there by Israel. And we've got the perfect person to talk to about that. Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator, Feliz Cinco de Mayo. Senator, Feliz Cinco de Mayo.
And thank you very much. I missed the intro. The line went blank for a while. I thought I lost you.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to play it again, though.
Okay.
That's fine.
I thought you wanted us to play it again because you liked it so much, and you're used to it. You love it.
I don't know how I can get through Monday without it.
There you go. That's what we want to hear. Thank you, Senator. All right,
Senator. Along those lines, I have to tell you, I was at a grocery store today. The lady comes up to me and says, "Are you going to be on the radio today?"
Oh.
And I said, "It is Monday." And she said, "I always listen to those guys." There you go.
Well, fantastic. Hey, is your address still the same so I can send you your check?
Yeah, please.
All right, I will do that.
You can buy me lunch. And give it to me. No, I mean, it's really good.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that made our day. All right, Senator, you heard that clip there. Usually when Israel goes into Gaza, they clean it up and they leave. But this time they're saying they are going to occupy the Gaza Strip. Anyone who has any common sense could see this is a good thing for them in order to keep Israel safe. But how much does this complicate the Israel-Palestinian peace process, if there is one?
No, I think I don't want to say the only chance, but I think it's going to help the process. And, I've been reading stories about this today, and the way they cover this is just so incredibly biased. This is the solution, I mean, if there is one, to the humanitarian problem in Gaza, because I doubt they're going to end up occupying the whole thing. They're going to be very present in the northern part of the country, which is the closest to Israel. And I've said ever since October 7th that they were going to extend the buffer, the security zone. There's no question about that. But they're going to get private companies in to administer aid once they've secured the situation. They're going to move the people to the south. They've been moving them back and forth, no humanitarian crisis. And now the aid will actually get to the people instead of being stolen by Hamas, because it's not going to be delivered by the UN anymore, and because Israel is going to have sufficient security there to ensure Hamas doesn't kill anybody who tries to get it, which is what they would do. If the civilians actually tried to get the food, Hamas would take it from them. So, and then to the extent that somebody besides Hamas is controlling Gaza, there's a chance for the people to live a decent life. So but yeah, the primary reason is to enhance Israeli security by going after Hamas effectively, expanding the buffer zone, and pressuring Hamas to release the hostages. Because one thing they don't want is to have to give up land. So they don't care how many civilians die or what happens to I'm talking about Hamas, what happens to the infrastructure, but they don't want to give up control of Gaza. And Israel's saying, well, we're going to take it. And if you don't like it, by the way, you might respond to ours and the president's attempts to get a ceasefire based on hostage release.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, Senator, I imagine that Israel and now Trump's patience on this is wearing fairly thin, given given how long this conflict has dragged out and all the promises that have been made and broken on the Hamas side of the coin. We all know Iran is likely pulling all their strings on this. But, Senator, the report I heard today was basically, if they don't get this resolved sooner than later, then Israel is going to plan a full ground invasion offensive and do everything they can to clean up the crap, for lack of a better word, that's left there. Is that what you're understanding?
Yeah, that's right, Tim. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's my question. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, to this point, they've been going in, taking care of Hamas, then withdrawing, but going back in. They withdraw. Hamas comes out from its gopher holes, and then they go back. It's a tactic. In other words, that they surface and then they get them. Now they're imposing, if not a permanent solution, an indefinite solution to the issues in Gaza. There's nobody else who's willing to provide security. And more broadly speaking, what you're seeing in the Middle East now is a picture of what could happen both in Europe and in Asia. In other words, we have a local ally with common interests, a very strong relationship, who's owning its own security and providing for it. And then we are supporting them in all kinds of ways. You notice we're fighting the Houthis right now. The Americans are taking primary responsibility for that. And working with them to offer our adversaries, look, we're saying, you want to make a bargain that protects our security and our interests, we'll make with you. The president said that to Hamas. The leaders can escape if they want to. They've turned back over the hostages. Leaders can go, and we'll set up a system in Gaza that will actually provide for the people. We're negotiating with Iran now. Same thing. President, I think, talked about it today. He's given a speech, and you got to break down your nuclear infrastructure. You do that if you really do want a civilian system. You can have one. Marco Rubio's talked about that. Nobody enriches uranium, by the way, for civilian nuclear power. You don't have to. We don't even enrich. We don't even enrich uranium. We get what we need from other places. And then the president's going in a couple of weeks. Or I guess less than that now. He's going to go to Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and that's going to be an investment trip. You're going to see a lot of investment in American technology and American manufacturing in this country coming as a result of this trip. So you can see how it'll work when we have an ally with common sense and a willingness to, get out front, at least for their own security. And then, we supply the things that only we can supply. They don't have aircraft carriers to go after the Houthis. We do. So I think it's, it's horrible that it's happening, Tim, but at least there's a future. There's a plan. There's a purpose that takes into account reality here.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, the King of Jordan, Abdullah, is scheduled to be at the White House today. And I don't want to talk about particulars of that visit. I want to talk about it in context of Israel's decision announced today that they're going to take over Gaza and occupy it. His country's right next door. It's majority Palestinian. And his country also has a peace treaty with Israel. How does that complicate his situation?
Well, the complicating factor with all the countries in the region is we need somebody who's willing to take the Palestinians who want to leave Gaza. Now, if we can actually get security in Gaza, I don't know how many of them are going to want to leave, but somebody's got to take them, and nobody wants to. They don't want to import radicalism. So the Jordanians don't want them. The Egyptians don't want them. We could have solved this problem a long time ago if they would step up. And I'm sure the president will push them on that. I mean, he understands, Jordan has enough instability as it is. But that's the discrete issue there. And then more broadly speaking, the president wants to get the Abraham Accords back on track. I'm sure he's going to talk to the Saudis about that. And, Jordan's part of that. Egypt could be part of that. There's a real possibility with everything that's happening of getting to an actual level of normalization in the Middle East. And President Trump's got still almost 4 years to try and get us there. So I'm more optimistic about the region than I've been in a long time. We do have to take care of the Iranian nuclear problem. They're vulnerable. Them getting a nuclear weapon would, I think, be the single worst thing that could happen in the Middle East. And that's something that's going to have to get done. So, and I think the president intends to do it, but he's doing it his way, and it's fine to try these negotiations. I mean, if the Iranians were smart, they'd agree to it. But we'll see. I wouldn't bet good American money on it.
Senator, I think it's really important to underscore everything you just said, because we had a similar experience, didn't we, the United States and the rest of the world, with Trump 1.0, with the creation of the Abraham Accords. We were moving towards a much more stable, much more safe and secure Middle East. And then we had the intervening years of the Biden catastrophes and chaos, where, Senator, we went from a world that was moving towards peace to one that seemed like it was on fire every single day. We actually had a promo running into your appearance every Monday that we had to change, because the old promo was basically, what chaos and crises did Joe Biden create over the weekend? Because it seemed like there was a new one every single weekend before we spoke to you on Monday afternoons. Senator, what is the difference? Is it Trump's style? Is it the people, the competent people that he has around him working on these international relations? Is it a combination of all of those things? Like, why is it's the same United States of America, but we obviously are doing things in a very different way and achieving very different results, aren't we?
Right. Well, the president has a common sense and correct view of our interests and a willingness to pursue them. And far from discouraging allies and partners, that encourages them, because you become predictable. They know what you want. And where there's common interest, they can trust you to pursue it. So we have an interest in a stable Middle East that is not dominated by anti-American powers, whether that's, Iran, whether that's the radical Islamic terrorists. That's the same interest that the Gulf states have. It's the same interest Israel has. And then, yes, we have worked together effectively on an operational basis. That's just below a strategic level. That's what the Abraham Accords were. And then on a tactical level, this is the offering the sticks and the carrots. The carrot, there are not many carrots we can offer Hamas, because we're not going to let them survive as an organization. But you offer them what you can, but then you also say, look, if you're not prepared to take it, you're going to wish you did. And it turns out, Tim, that kind of an approach to foreign policy actually works. And yeah, I mean, I think the president has his own style. I think on balance, it's very effective. Other presidents might do it differently. But, the tactics that you pursue and the people you choose, that's important. You want to have good people. But it's more important to get the strategy right, and then to be ingenious in the operations that you're thinking of. Now, for example, with the Abraham Accords, see, the establishment took the view for years, and wrongly, this is just factually wrong, that you couldn't get a broader stability in the Middle East unless you solved the Palestinian question. This was John Kerry over and over again. That's just not true. The problem in the Middle East is not Palestine. It's the forces that want to attack us and to attack those with whom we have common interests, which is Iran, and then the radical Islamic forces, which have been mostly Iranian proxies to this point, but also include ISIS. Those are radical Sunni forces. Trump recognized that, and has the courage to, when he reaches a decision, to pursue it.
Senator, with you being on the Armed Services Committee and working for you about 20 years ago, I got an idea of what military budgets are. So when President Trump on Friday proposed his skinny budget of $1 trillion, I knew that was a huge issue. I don't think a military budget has ever been that much. The Armed Services Committee Chair, Wicker, has said that is not enough money, that it doesn't keep up with inflation and the military's needs. Your thoughts as a military foreign policy expert on that?
Yeah, I'm concerned for the same reason Roger Wicker is, and Mike Rogers, who's the chair of the House committee, is also concerned because a good deal of that increase, and we don't know how much, but a good deal of it is one-time money. In other words, they're counting the money that's in the reconciliation bill towards the defense budget. Now, we don't know how much of it there is, but that's not building it into the base budget. In other words, if you had $100 billion increase in the base budget, then assuming you're not going to actually cut the top line in the future, then that's counted every year going forward, right? In other words, it's okay. The base budget goes up, so the year after that, when you're figuring the defense budget, you have a higher top line that you're starting from. If you count the one-time money, then you don't really have so much of an increase, do you? Now, I don't think, I don't think you need to get to $1 trillion in the baseline. That'd be about, depends on how you count it. That may seem weird, but there's money the Department of Energy spends in the nuclear infrastructure that you either can or don't have to count towards the defense budget. But to get it, the base budget to $1 trillion would be about $120 billion increase. I don't think we need to do all of that, particularly this year. But I would like to see 60 to 80 billion. And I think if Wicker and Rogers, if we can give them that much, I don't think they'll be as concerned. But if this is all one-time money, then I do have a problem. I would agree with it, because that's effectively not an increase at all. Doesn't mean the one-time money isn't important. We can spend it on things. And the only other thing I'll say is this is a perennial problem in every administration. These budgets got to go through the bean counters at OMB. And they, during my time and ever since, they don't understand the return you get by having a strong defense. So you're going to see conversations between these congressional leaders and the president, and I do have confidence they'll work it out acceptably. I understand we're trying to reduce the deficit, but my gosh, DOGE, I was reading the other day, they've come up with $160 billion in reductions already, right? And they're planning to come up more. The tariffs are producing more revenue. As the stock market is now back to where it was. And I love the fact that the professionals lost a lot of money because they panic sold. Anyway, that's a different subject. So I would say to you, I'm concerned. The jury's still out. I'm going to watch it pretty carefully. Peace through strength. That's the president's formula, and he's right with it. And that means we've got to continue rebuilding the armed forces.
That is Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, I'm glad we had you on today, because I was like $1 trillion. Most budgets are 700 billion, 800 billion, $1 trillion, and that's not enough money. But
let me say this, and it's owing to the men and women in the armed forces. So there's 1.1 million men and women in active duty alone. That's not counting the reserve and the guard. And remember, and if you counted all the missions that the services are expected to perform, and sometimes on a moment's notice, and obviously in combat, everything from close air support to anti-submarine warfare to, of course, the nuclear mission, precision bombing. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of missions these people are able to perform all over the world. In addition, intelligence collection, I could go on and on and on. And yeah, I know $1 trillion is a lot of money, but you're getting something for that money. This is not money you're spending, I was going to say in the post office, but that's not really fair. I like my mailman. So
thank you, Senator. And we'll speak with you again next Monday. Have a great week.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. 4:45 coming up. Chris's Corner. Got some immigration news for you on how the Postal Service is helping to deport illegal aliens. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there. Very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid-70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you're going to get news, opinion, analysis, and you're going to get education.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Well, I always say on the ads you hear here on the station that I am a lawyer, but I'm a recovering attorney, still fully licensed, but not currently practicing. And that's why I will refer you to the Civia Law Centers. Todd Civia and the gang at the Civia Law Centers are standing by to assist you today, tomorrow, or whenever you need them. Now, I would not put off a call to Todd Civia if you have not yet done your estate planning. You can never start too early. You can never start too late. It's just important that you have one. Civia Law will assist you with all of your legal needs in the areas of estate planning, elder law, special needs matters if you have special needs children or adults, real estate. Many of you do real estate as a primary occupation. Some of you do it as a side hustle, as a dedicated second career. It can be a very lucrative one. Personal injury matters, business formations, and more. Look, whatever your occupational needs might be, Todd Civia and the gang at Civia Law can likely help you. And you should do planning for your business needs as well. Don't just wait to get sued or to get in trouble or to have a crisis or to have a conflict. Go to Todd Civia on the front end. A little money. Let me tell you, I know going to a lawyer may sound about as fun as going to the dentist to get 4 or 5 teeth pulled. But let me tell you, a little bit of legal, I speak from several decades of experience when I did practice law. A little bit of preparation and advanced planning goes a long way when you're dealing with situations like estate planning, real estate matters, or business matters as well. A long way. And if you have a personal injury matter or special needs matter, something that may pop up, it's also good to go to Todd Civia and the Civia Law Centers. They have 7 offices all up and down the Interstate 70 corridor. So there's likely one very near you, including on the Missouri side in Wentzville and Creve Coeur, and on the Illinois side in Edwardsville, East Alton, and in several other locations as well. Extremely affordable, extremely knowledgeable, extremely approachable. We've had Todd Civia on the air many times. He'll tell you, he's just a normal dude, but he has a vast wealth of experience and knowledge in the legal field in all the areas I mentioned: estate planning, elder law, special needs, real estate, personal injury, business matters, and so much more. 24/7, you can check out the online forums they have and get more information at civialaw.com. That's SIVIA, civialaw.com, civialaw.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Hello, it's me, your favorite president, and perhaps your next pope. Conclave. Well, it's been 100 years since I became president. Excuse me. Days, wow. Feels longer, but people are saying that what I've done so far has single-handedly helped win people elections, mostly in Canada. I've also signed 147 executive orders, everything from banning paper straws to defunding PBS. I understand Elmo has now been apprehended by ICE. Brought to you by the letter L for El Salvador. He's not coming back.
4:51 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and you got to admit that that is kind of funny, though. But even though they're parroting our president, Tim, he is getting the job done when it comes to immigration, and that's what I'm going to talk about with him and Joy next on Chris's Corner. But before we get to that, I've got to tell a little story that happened to me over the weekend. So this whole social media, everybody filming themselves stuff is like completely out of hand. So I'm driving through this neighborhood, and there's this kid. He's probably 7 or 8 years old on this little go-kart thing. And I'm like honking my horn. I'm like, dude, get out of the middle of the street. What are you doing? You're not a car. I honked like 3 times. And all of a sudden, he spins out. And that's when I noticed that he was filming himself.
Oh, no.
Kind of thing. And so he didn't even hear me, didn't even know I was behind him. And once he spun out, and he was like kind of embarrassed, and he saw me. And I just pulled up alongside him, and I just said, "Are you stupid?" That's exactly what I said to him. And I swear to God, he looked at me, and he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, he didn't say it sarcastically. He didn't laugh or anything. I was like, all right, if he is smart enough to realize that he's pretty stupid, then I can't say anything more than that. But I just looked at him. I said, "Are you stupid?" It's exactly how I looked at him.
He's lucky someone like you was paying attention versus somebody barreling down the street not paying attention. He could have gotten killed.
Just absolutely.
That's crazy.
Just absolutely amazing. Trying to capture. I mean, we've heard the stories of people that are like on the side of mountains and cliffs, and they walk off because they're trying to get the perfect selfie shot. Absolutely crazy. All right, let's do a little corner.
Chris's Corner is brought to you by Elite Comfort Experts. Call 636-887-0971 or EliteComfortExperts.com.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, Department of Homeland Security, we've got ICE, we've got the Army, we've got all types of government institutions involved in removing illegal immigrants. Now we hear that the U.S. Postal Service is also getting into the act. The Postal Service's law enforcement arm has quietly started to cooperate with federal immigration officials in order to find undocumented immigrants. The Washington Post reported this week, immigration officials are seeking photographs of the outside of envelopes and packages and access to the Postal Investigation Agency's broad surveillance systems. So if you're an illegal alien, the immigrant, whatever they're calling you nowadays, the post office is watching you. Hey, the IRS has reached an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security to share tax information of undocumented immigrants with authorities. The move could speed up immigration enforcement, but may push undocumented immigrants to avoid paying taxes and turn to the informal economy. No, there is no informal economy. Once you go underground, it makes it much harder for you to survive, especially when immigration officials are looking for you. You need to take the president's suggestion, take the $1,000, deport yourself, and you may even have a chance to come back legally. Social Security is now also an immigration enforcement tool. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants in the U.S. with, quote, temporary parole status granted through the various Biden-era programs have received Social Security numbers to work. The Department of Homeland Security has identified 6,300 plus of these people who are on the FBI terrorist watch list or with FBI criminal records. HUD also is partnered with the Department of Homeland Security to help identify undocumented immigrants living in publicly subsidized housing. And finally, on the economics front, the Treasury Department has sanctioned 3 Mexican nationals and 2 companies that it alleged were involved in the Jalisco New Generation Cartel scheme to steal crude oil from Mexico's state-owned energy company, smuggle it into Texas, and deliver it to complicit U.S. importers for sale on the market. Listen to this cartel, Tim. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel sounds like a boy band more than a drug cartel. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel. All right. Fuel theft and crude oil smuggling are cash cows for this organization. It provides a lucrative revenue stream for the group and enabling it to wreak havoc in Mexico and the United States. So these drug cartels into everything. They're into stealing oil. They're into trafficking human beings. They're into trafficking fentanyl and cocaine and marijuana. It's almost like what next are they going to get into? And that is Chris's Corner. We've got Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. What are you hitting us with again, Tim?
Yeah, Chris, I thought I'm going to call an audible. I thought you had a great idea, and I reached out to a couple of our buddies up here. Representative Ben Keefer from Chesterfield's going to stop by.
Excellent.
Chris, not only will he, and he came into my mind because I almost forgot about this last week. There was something really weird and really woke that popped up in Chesterfield in our public school system that Ben wanted to bring to our attention. And Chris, he'll update us on the final 2 weeks of session.
Okay, that is Representative Ben Keefer coming up on the Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. 5:24, Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com and host of Red State Radio. She joins us for her weekly chat. We'll talk about, of course, the top Red State headlines. 5:45, Chris Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service will discuss Hansen Memorial Foundation sporting clay event that's happening on May 17th. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz, the notorious former prison on an island in the San Francisco Bay. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Declaring Alcatraz a symbol of law and order, the president is directing his government to reopen and expand the island prison, which has been closed for more than 60 years. He wrote online that the prison should house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Alcatraz was closed in 1963 due to crumbling infrastructure. It's now a major tourist site that is operated by the National Park Service. Greg Clugston, Washington.
House Republicans are barreling into a crucial week in their efforts to pass President Trump's legislative agenda, with key policy hangups threatening to upend leadership's timeline for approving the sprawling package. Details from correspondent Bernie Bennett.
Those disagreements have already prompted delays as lawmakers haggle over how to address contentious issues while meeting deficit reduction targets. The Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees areas including Medicaid and green tax credits, postponed a markup of its portion of the Trump agenda bill as lawmakers remain at odds over how to handle potential cuts to the social safety net program. Hardline conservatives are calling for steep slashes that moderates have drawn red lines around, all as Trump insists that Republicans not cut Medicaid benefits provided to low-income individuals. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
The Trump administration says it will pay immigrants in the U.S. illegally $1,000 plus travel costs if they leave voluntarily as it accelerates its mass deportation agenda. The Department of Homeland Security said Monday the people who use the CBP Home app to announce their self-deportations would get the money. More on these stories available at townhall.com.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 5/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-source single line activation on qualifying plan. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag with a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, Junior Hot and Crispy Fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there. Very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid-70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Jewels on Hampton, paying some of the highest prices for your gold, silver, diamonds, and more. Call 314-752-5000 or visit jewelsonhampton.com.
Another RX Watch brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
The news and talk.
At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father.
That matters to St. Louis.
He brought so many beautiful gifts to the church, which are going to be missed.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
My colleagues from across the aisle have decided that they are going to make immigrants the boogeyman.
For the past 4 years, providing a path to citizenship for illegal aliens is precisely what the Biden administration has been doing. This isn't a theoretical or a hypothetical problem. This is happening right now. The political party that has nothing to offer voters but inflation, censorship, and transgenderism is weaponizing mass illegal immigration to their own political benefit. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
506, and welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And for the Congresswoman, I just want to tell her this. Look, once you are dishonest and you can't tell the truth that these people are not immigrants, quote unquote, they are illegal immigrants, people who entered this country the wrong way. They shouldn't be in this country. And once you start off with that, you lose all credibility in your argument, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, Chris, I couldn't agree with you more. It is a very slippery slope when you basically, if we were to concede the point that borders don't matter, that anyone who wants to come here, no matter who they are, where are they from, what their background is, terrorist, non-terrorist, criminal, non-criminal, when we have no legal laws or restrictions around the sovereignty of our nation or any nation, then that nation will cease to exist. That's what they don't seem to understand, as you pointed out.
Exactly. And cut 9, Joey, the president has a very good idea for what to do with illegal immigrants. Congresswoman Crockett.
Alcatraz reopened.
Well, we need detention beds, and we do contracts in a lot of states, a lot of local municipalities. So I think it's certainly an option, especially for the significant public safety threats, national security threats. I mean, should be on the table.
Alcatraz, I agree, Tim. I mean, we've got a budget reconciliation bill going on right now, and of course, there's a lot of wrangling going on with that. But also, where the Homeland Security and immigration efforts are running out of money. And when you run out of money, it's hard to do these deportation flights. It's hard to find these people. It's hard to, detain them. So that's one part of this budget bill that's got to get done. So money can be now allocated to finish the job here.
Yeah, Chris, what do these left-wing, liberal, anti-American DC Democrats want, right? Do they want people to be detained and have due process? Or do they not want them to be detained and have in their mind, not have due process and sent back to the countries of their origin? So what do they want? Chris, they don't want these people detained at all, right? That's the point. And they don't even really want them to have due process. The left-wing liberal version of due process is, well, we'll give them a reminder card to come back to court at some point in the next 7 to 10 months or more. And if they don't show up, I guess that's no big deal, because you know what? They are already here in America, so they should just be allowed to stay.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump is basically saying, fine, you don't want me to just send these people back on planes? Then I'll fire back up Alcatraz and we'll put them all there until they can have their day in court. But I'm not going to have them wandering around in the interior of America.
And the president talked about this over the weekend, that you can't have due process for millions of people. He's like, what do you want to have, 2 or 3 million trials? There's so many of these people in the country that if you tried every one of them, every couple of weeks, the president said on one of the Sunday shows it would take 300 years to get through all of them. So they know that that is not the real answer with this problem, is trying to give people trials that enter this country illegally, remove them.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And Chris, we have a special guest here in studio, Schroer, who can say a thing or two about. He probably has an opinion or two about, given his background, about illegal versus legal immigration. He is State Representative Ben Keithley, and Joey. He's going to be the subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech.
Listen to me. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Chris, I thought we'd talk to State Rep Ben Keithley about the last 2 weeks of session, and he also had a very troubling news item pop up in his district in Chesterfield just a week or two ago. Thought we'd get an update from him on that. But Chris, the first thing I'd like to kick it off with Representative Keithley is the subject you and I were just talking about. For those who know Ben's background, they know that he is the product of legal immigration. He is he's an Indian American, And Ben, I bet everyone who's, and we all are. I'm the product of legal immigration. My grandfather came over here from Italy in the mid 1900s. We have a very different opinion as to legal versus illegal immigration, don't we? Well, is he on there, Joey? Okay, hang on 1 second. Chris, filibuster for 30 seconds.
Is that it?
We will be talking with Representative Ben Keithley. He is from the Chesterfield area. He is a huge friend of the show. We've had him on a couple of times. As Tim said, I think we got 9 or 10 days left until the end of the session.
Oh, yeah.
And there he is. Representative, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Chris?
I can't complain.
Better late than never.
I'm a very amateur engineer, but I figured it out.
Hey, you fix it every time, though. I got to give it to you.
I've learned a few things. I don't know how.
He's got no help in studio here.
I need a Joey on this end. That's for sure. Anyway, Ben, illegal versus legal immigration, and it's a topic that happens in the state house every year.
And I'm one of my earliest memories was my mother's citizenship ceremony.
Oh wow!
I remember her going through that process. I remember how proud of a day it was for my dad, and even me as a young child, and for my mom especially. And you see how hard people work to go through, whether you come in on a student visa, work visa, sponsored by family members. People work so hard and wait in long lines to do it the right way. And then it really, really spits on their face to then allow people to come in completely jumping to the front of the line, unvetted, unchecked, and just let them say, and then treat it like it's legitimate that they're here.
Mm-hmm.
It's to say nothing of how disrespectful it is to American citizens by sacrificing our security and our safety. To what it does to those who we say you have to follow the laws if you want to be an American, you have to believe in our process and our system, and then say except for the others.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. My mom I'd never put words in my own mother's mouth, but she said this enough where I think I don't know anyone in the country who's more horrified by the influx of millions and millions of unchecked, unfettered illegal immigrants than my mother is, who came here the right way.
Excellent.
And one thing too regarding this issue, Representative, is we've seen just the abuse of the asylum system. We saw the Biden administration give unilateral pardons to wide swaths of people, and that's not the way that it's supposed to be done. We see people that are coming into this country as basically economic migrants, and then claiming that their countries are unsafe and they fear for their lives. What do you say to people that say we should let those people in?
Well, and I think you got it. It's an abuse of the process. There are all these systems that I don't think Americans anywhere object to. The idea of asylum, the idea of different kinds of visas. Americans don't object to this. We want it. We even in the Republican Party, we believe in the "give me you're sick, you're weary, you're tired," and building on that's what we've always done. It's what our country's founded on. But there's a difference between that and letting other countries open up their prisons and insane asylums and letting the inmates into the United States of America, and our government has nothing to say about it. And it happens through abuse of that system, through all these things that we've set up that we say, these are the types of people we want in. It requires a government that actually checks that in good faith. And during the Biden administration, it's unfortunately those systems got abused and we didn't have it.
Speaking to Representative Ben Keithley. He's a state representative representing the city, largely the city of Chesterfield, here up at the State House. 2 weeks left in session. Ben, I know we're going to get to some session questions, but you, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on today was that apparently the liberals in the land didn't get the memo from parents and interested parties in the election last year. A very troubling story was brought to your attention last week by a concerned parent group in the Rockwood School District in the Chesterfield area. I know we need to get an update on this because you said the story has gone mysteriously quiet, but what were the allegations that you heard reported last week?
Well, I think you had there was a certain individual who had been, and it was at my former school, and I hate to say my elementary school that I grew up in, the one right by where I live, still today. An elementary school was hiring I don't know what the proper name, because I don't
proper
know
pronouns
what
are
pronouns
these days.
are all confused for some people in this country now, so you don't know what the pronouns are, but it certainly seemed from the entirety of this person's social media presence that there was a lot of confusion, that the pronouns didn't necessarily match what was on social media profiles in some cases. No, it's hard to tell. And when you have that kind of confusion, you present in elementary school. It's what they had done is they had hired this individual as a guidance counselor of all things
for an elementary school.
So the idea that we are going to, there's the idea of, what we're going to allow adults to do in a free society and what we're going to put in front of children and in an educational environment is astounding to me. And I can't think of any reason why you would put someone with this kind of confusion and ideology in front of young elementary age children in a situation where they are supposed to be helping them in instances of mental health and in delicate situations and helping them through those kind of growing pains. And you have someone who's in that process. I can't think of any other reason you would do it except for you are trying to force the political debate with elementary school kids. You want they want the children asking questions so they can have that opportunity and that chance to, quote unquote, explain it to the child.
Well, Ben, if you, go ahead. I was just going to say, if you get an update on this, Ben, let us know, because maybe the outcry was enough initially to scare
you
the
hope. And
school
there's really, it's all you can do is we hope our schools, they're supposed to be public school districts. They should be responsive to the communities. And in this case, when they make decisions like that in a community like Chesterfield, that's not responsive. That's not what anyone wants.
Representative, in their warped logic, they will say that this guidance counselor teacher will help a person. There may be a young child that is suffering the same type of sexual identity crisis in a sense that they are. And if they can see someone like them, that will heighten their self-esteem and will help them in the long run. I think it's complete BS, but that's the argument.
Where was my half Indian, half white guidance counselor? And I'm not saying I should have had one. I'm saying I think it was just fine that I met people on their character and on their ideas, not these superficial qualities that some people claim. That's really, I think, where people are going to help in this. We need to get away from the whole DEI hire. We need to get away from judging people based on these superficial qualities they have about themselves and go back to character and ambition and ideas and intelligence and talent. That's what's best for students.
Representative, with approximately 9 to 10 legislative days left in the legislative session, and then the gavels come down, what are you hearing? What are you hoping of all the items that are poised to pass? What would you like to see House and Senate leadership put their shoulders to the grindstone on and get across the finish line?
To me, I think the three biggest things that and a lot of great stuff has happened so far, and has been done. But there are three things I think still languishing that now are going to become big issues coming down session. I think one is HJR 73. The trying to get a ballot measure back to the voters to further clarify what we left the current law post Dobbs in Missouri and traded in for this complete extremist position in Amendment 3. And I think the voters deserve another chance to really find out what they really believe, because I don't think making Missouri the most abortion friendly state in the entire world, save China and North Korea, is really what the voters wanted to do. I just don't believe that for a second. No polling suggests that that's true. So we need to get back to the voters and do some cleanup and some serious corrective work on that. That probably is number one. Number two, I think is probably addressing the big business crisis we have looming now that the calendar's turned to May with Proposition A, and the paid sick leave that's going to start getting racked up now. And the minimum wage. It is so detrimental to small businesses in Missouri, and we are about to see small businesses get decimated over the next year if the legislature doesn't figure out a way to act on this and start working on that issue. And then the third thing that's become kind of an issue now is education reform. I think with school choice, I think we have a big open enrollment bill that's over in the Senate. That's always been a struggle, but now it's become even bigger with the appropriations chair in the Senate, Lincoln Huff, removing $50 million of empowerment scholarship money that we had put in the House to go to children who need help finding better schools, to make sure we empower all children and all parents to be able to pick the right education for children, to strip the $50 million of scholarship money from kids. I think is awful, and I'm happy to see that I believe that the House is going to make it a priority to make sure that gets put back in.
Excellent.
Tim, you want to close out?
Yeah, Representative, it's been a different year, hasn't it? There's been different leaders in both chambers that have taken the helm, largely due to term limits. You're a member of the Freedom Caucus. I think, last year you came in pretty hot, but this year it seems like most of you, from watching you every week and assisting you, you all been in the thick of like some of the biggest priority bills, and some of which have already passed. And Governor Kehoe has actually been a pretty willing partner this year on some big items, hasn't he?
It's like a completely different body, a completely different political environment this year. And watching the success the Freedom Caucus has had, and being able to not have to filibuster this year, not have to be obstructionist, but be a participant, be a leader in the legislation that's gone forward this year has been great to be a part of that and work with it.
Well, thank you, Ben, for your time. And I know you got a couple of big bills. We're going to hope that get across the finish line.
Yeah, we just did one over in the House.
Oh,
Source of income
congratulations.
for landlord tenant protections, House Bill 595 and 343. So hopefully that'll be on its way to the governor soon. And we'll keep moving, make Missouri freer.
And where do people follow you, find you online?
At Ben Keith, BenKeath on X, Twitter. And then you can find me on Facebook, Ben Keithley, and benkeithley.com.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much, Representative, for being part of the Speaker Stump speech today. Good luck with the rest of session. All right. Well, there we go, Chris. There's our Jeff City update for a Monday in the final 9 days of session.
Excellent. Great job, Representative Ben Keithley. Coming up, Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at redstate.com and host of Red State Radio on Saturday afternoon. We'll speak to her coming up on the big headlines of the day. You're listening to The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there, very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid 70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Hey, this Sunday is Mother's Day. How did that happen? Mike, how in the world is it approaching mid-May? I feel like we just started the legislative session. Chris and I and Joey were up here in Jeff City in January. But no, it's May, and it is Mother's Day month, as well as after Mother's Day, we'll start talking more about Joey, Chris, and I and our birthdays. You can go to Newsteaders for that, too. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. That's your one-stop shop for Mother's Day for all the special moms or the mothering figures in your life. I know that many of you all, your moms have gone to a better place. They're looking down on you from above, but you also have wives who are moms, right? You have aunts, you have all sorts of mother type people in your life, and they all deserve something special from Newsteaders. You know, we've also got a ton of graduations. We have anniversaries in May. I just mentioned the 3 birthdays that we have from your wonderful hosts here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with producer Joey V. Lots of stuff seems to happen May, June, and July every year. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers can be your one-stop shop for all the special people in your life, men and women, because Newsteaders has fantastic stuff for the guys, too. I'm wearing one of the Bulova watches right now here today. Newsteaders, neighborhood jewelry store since 1961. Richard Newsteader and his family have been running it for 5 decades plus. You stop by the Newsteaders store at 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, 2 miles west of 270, and you will experience the Newsteaders difference today. They've got diamonds. They've got wedding engagement rings. They have hand-engraved items that Richard Newsteader makes himself from scratch. That's a legacy item that you'll pass down through your family for generations. They do all sorts of jewelry repair. I keep forgetting. I have to pick up a watch that was fixed there a few weeks ago by Richard and the gang. They do jewelry appraisals. They do quality ring resizing and pearl and bead restringing. They do it all, and they do it with a friendly smile, excellent service, and a warm attitude, so much so that you're going to go back there again and again. You can find them 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers at wowdiamonds.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris. How are you, Vic? I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The All Things Basement Tea experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry out that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people.
528 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Tim, during your live read there, you talked about our birthdays. Of course, you and Joey's are on 5/27. Mine is on May 30th. Well, the great Larry Connors reminded me last week, and I had forgotten this. His birthday is May 31st.
You
the
gotta
day
be kidding
after
me.
mine. So there are a lot of Geminis in the News Talk STL family. One person who's not a Gemini, I don't think, is our next guest.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
Good afternoon, Susie, and happy Cinco de Mayo. Are you drinking yet?
I am not drinking yet. I'm still working, but I will be getting together with family later, and I will probably have a drink, I would suspect.
You see how I said yet, so I kind of knew something.
You did. You covered that, yes. And since even though it is after 5 o'clock, I'm still on the clock. So I am also not a Gemini. You are correct in that.
All right, Susie, I'm going to let you surprise me. There's been a lot of speculation. Former Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, he would have a very good shot against Jon Ossoff, the freshman Democrat in that seat. You've got a new story up on his decision. I have no idea what it is. What is it?
He has decided he will not run.
Oh,
for the seat. I know. It's a little
sorry.
strong contender for.
Oops. Lost you there for just a second. Tim, we'll give her a call back. That would have been a great, that would have been almost an automatic pickup. Brian Kemp is very, very popular in Georgia. They've already done polls that showed him ahead of Jon Ossoff. A lot of times what you see with these governor types, they're executives. They're they're used to making the decisions, giving the orders. They don't like being in a legislative body where he'll be one of 100. If I had to take a guess, I would think that was probably a part of it.
Yeah, Chris, there is a weird phenomenon going on. Back in the day, most U.S. senators were recruited out of gubernatorial mansions, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them went from governor to U.S. Senate. That's one of the best candidates you can have. Why? Well, they're usually fairly popular in their home states. They have statewide name ID. They know how to raise money. Now, Chris, the reverse trend is happening, and a whole crew of U.S. senators are going back home or staying home to remain or become governors. And you know what most of them have said is the reason for that? They're sick and tired of the D.C. gridlock. They feel like they go to Washington, D.C., and they just waste their time and their treasure and their talent.
All right, we got Susie back. Susie, we were speculating there while we were getting you back that a lot of times what you see with these executive types, governors, they're used to giving orders. They're used to being the boss, and they just don't fit too well being one of 100 or so, whatever particular body they're in. Was that the decision, do you think, reason for this decision?
I have no idea what prompted Governor Kemp to make this decision. That certainly would be a reason, and I could understand why some people who've run a state might not be interested in then becoming, like you said, one of 100 in Washington. Others seem to have the opposite thought and want to go from running a state to being right there in the thick of things in Washington. I don't know what's driving this decision for Governor Kemp. I think it's disappointing in some ways because I think he was probably the best positioned to challenge Ossoff, and now it's going to be sort of a mad scramble. And I'm not sure who will emerge as a super strong candidate for Georgia.
You make a really good point there. Even though many folks in Trump land are probably cheering this because the president and Kemp tended to lock horns quite a bit over the last few years, I've noticed there's been a bit of a truce between them. Maybe it's a Cold War, but they haven't been poking each other much. I think Donald Trump probably wanted Brian Kemp to win or run because, as you mentioned, if you're just counting noses, which is the first thing you got to do in Washington before you can start governing, he probably was the only odds-on favorite to beat Ossoff. Otherwise, Susie, you're going for someone who doesn't have nearly as much name ID, right?
Right, exactly. And I do think that they've kind of their relationship has thawed because Kemp did endorse Trump for the presidency, and then Trump named him to the bipartisan Council of Governors in February. So I think they were at least able to work together, work with one another. And Trump wants as many Republican noses in Congress as possible. And so when you have somebody who would be the strongest contender bow out, that's got to be frustrating.
Speaking with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com and host of Red State Radio Sundays at 4 p.m. Susie, I'm sure you heard about the revelation of this new book, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. They've got a section where President Biden's staff were debating on having him go through a cognitive test. And that was right around the time when Robert Hur released his report. Your thoughts on this? I mean, it's kind of a little too late, like we've been saying, but your thoughts on this revelation?
Well, I don't think it's that big of a revelation. I haven't had a chance to read the articles talking about it, but I did see the headlines and was aware that this was out there and being talked about. And it's one of those things where, I don't want to be glib about it, but it's just like, well, duh. I mean, everybody could see this. Chris, you and I were arguing back and forth like 2.5, 3 years ago about how soon until Joe Biden was going to bow out. And that wasn't because we just didn't like his policies. It was because he wasn't up to the job. So it is rich to have all these people who were part of the cover up and, happily going along with it until now, suddenly to say, oh, yeah, there were these problems and we were all fighting and worried about it and concerned. Well, thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for doing what was right for the country.
But what about, you can have concern and say, yeah, president is not as, doesn't have his fastball. But they got to the point where maybe we should test him. I think that makes it a little more, significant. They weren't just whispering. They were like, maybe we should test this guy.
Well, I think that just goes to underscore how bad he was, which is what everybody on the outside was screaming from the top at the tops of their lungs.
Yeah, indeed. Susie, you have a story that was put up, I think, yesterday, and as you say, this is big news if it's true, because we've been hearing a lot of back and forth between the House and the Senate and whether or not they're going to be able to meet the deadlines and the requirements of this reconciliation package. You have a story titled, If True, Big if true, Senator Barrasso predicts the Senate will match House proposed spending cuts in reconciliation package. Susie, what details have you unearthed here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal because he's the majority whip in the Senate. And one of the big concerns that's been raised is whether or not the Senate will actually come up with some cuts, because the House has proposed something in the neighborhood of $1.5 trillion. And in order for this to work, they have to reach an agreement. And so that's been a concern. Well, Barrasso was on with Maria Bartiromo yesterday, and he said point blank that she pushed him on it, and he kind of dodged it initially, but then when she pushed him again, he answered and he said, yeah, I think we may even be able to exceed where they are with cuts. That's the first time I've heard that kind of language coming out so directly from Senate leadership. So, I mean, he's a politician, and they often, say one thing and they overpromise and underdeliver, let's say. Whether or not they will actually get those kinds of cuts in there and be able to agree on them remains to be seen. But that is, to me, encouraging if he's accurate in that.
Susie, as we know, I still keep calling him Senator, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, of course, is now the temporary national security advisor, the first person to have that job, the two jobs like that since Henry Kissinger in the 70s. One name that is being bandied about as a possible replacement for national security advisor is Stephen Miller, who's kind of the jack of all trades of the administration. What are you hearing there in your sources and the sources on Red State about him possibly being chosen?
Well, I think he's the odds-on favorite. Trump has said as much, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to end up happening. And of course, Miller's strong suit and focus has, in a lot of respects, been on the administration's immigration policy. And so whether they want to kind of have him sidestep that a little bit, not that they don't go hand in hand, but they are separate roles. So whether they want to move him over and out of that role, where he's been very forceful and very successful, I would say, into this NSA role remains to be seen. Obviously, Donald Trump is going to put Stephen Miller where he feels he's going to be able to best use him. He has done, I think, a very, very good, very strong job this time around of picking people that are well suited to the roles and to his agenda. So, he obviously trusts Stephen Miller. So I don't know. I don't have any added insight on it. It wouldn't shock me if he got that role. But I also think he's doing a good job where he is.
Yeah, he's probably one of the administration's best communicators, Susie, isn't he? People may not like his tough as nails kind of style, but he says very little that can be argued with by the left-wing liberal press, doesn't he?
Well, he's very direct, and he doesn't pull his punches, and he's a very effective messenger. And so I think that's another reason why they may want to keep him where he is, because I don't know that the NSA, the National Security Advisor, necessarily is thought of as being somebody who's like a regular. Well, I guess they are. Jake Sullivan was. I don't know. I just feel like he's better suited where he is, but I don't know, who to suggest would be better suited to becoming the National Security Advisor.
Susie, you are, of course, the deputy managing editor at redstate.com, and you are also the host of Red State Radio Sundays here at 4 p.m. It's too early to tell us what's going to be on this week's show, but tell the folks what they may have missed if they didn't tune in yesterday.
They missed a great show if they didn't tune in yesterday, and I highly encourage them to go check out the podcast of it, because I had both Jennifer Oliver O'Connell on and Brad Slager. Jennifer has been covering stories that haven't been getting necessarily the play in the mainstream that they maybe should have, including this high school situation in Katy, Texas, where a football player basically pounced on and beat up a freshman girl. And then they were both held responsible and both punished for it. And it's a crazy situation. There's video of it and everything. She's talked about the the bill in California where Democrats are pushing to remove the 16 and 17-year-olds from the human trafficking provisions, somehow not making it a felony for people to traffic in 16 and 17-year-old people. I'm not sure why the Democrats are deciding that that's the hill they want to die on, but they are. So we talked about that. And then we also talked about the fact that Jennifer got to go see President Trump speak in person at the commencement address at the University of Alabama last week.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then Brad and I talked about just sort of deconstructing the media and how they've moved on now somewhat from Kilmar Abrego Garcia, since he maybe isn't the most savory character, but now their new saint may not turn out to be such a saint either. So it was a good show, and I really encourage people to check it out.
And you are right. There has been a decrease in the Abrego Garcia coverage over the last week or so. Spot on. All right. That is Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at redstate.com and host of Red State Radio Sundays at 4 p.m. on X, Smoozy Q, and redstate.com. Susie, thank you. Smoothie, I called you Smoothie. Susie, thank you so much for your time, and we'll speak to you next week.
All right, guys, have a great evening.
All right, coming up, Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. We'll talk to him about the Hansen Memorial Foundation Sporting Clay event that's coming up on May 17th. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and a little cool out there today under the overcast skies. We'll probably see a few pop-up showers here and there. Very brief, very light showers, but the high temperature only in low 60s. Dropping into the 40s tonight with some patchy fog to start your Tuesday, but temperatures jumping into the mid-70s. And while we do have a little bit of a rain chance on Wednesday and Thursday, mainly dry for the rest of the weekend, the weekend's looking pretty good at this point. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Freedom. It's a simple mechanical system even a Harvard graduate can understand. We'll talk to Donald Wilkie about that Tuesday at 10:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Look, it's been kind of rainy. It's been kind of cool. We're not having our usual hot summers or hot spring. But hey, let's talk a little common sense here. Summer's on the way. And if your air conditioner isn't running right, you're basically throwing money out the window. That's why I trust the team at Elite Comfort Experts. They're a local, family-owned HVAC company that believes in doing things the right way. No upsells, no gimmicks, just honest work at a fair price. Right now, they're offering a $79 air conditioning performance evaluation. For just $79, their expert techs will check your entire system, make sure it's running efficiently, and help you avoid expensive breakdowns before they happen. Don't wait until it's 95 degrees and your AC gives out. Don't procrastinate. Call now. Get ahead of the heat. Why roll the dice with a big out-of-town chain run by private equity? Stick with a local business that stands behind their work, Elite Comfort Experts. Call 636-887-0971 or visit elitecomfortexperts.com. That's 636-887-0971.
Experience the true flavors of Mexico at Dos Primos, O'Fallon's premier Mexican restaurant. From sizzling fajitas to homemade caldo de pollo, every dish is crafted with the freshest ingredients and traditional recipes, all made fresh daily in our kitchen. Cool down with our famous margaritas or your favorite cerveza, while our friendly staff makes you feel like family. Dine in or carry out. Visit DosPrimosMexicanRestaurant.com or find us on North Main in O'Fallon.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies. Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer. Let's party! Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
This is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the #1 RE/MAX franchise in the region. As a licensed real estate broker with RE/MAX Results for over 20 years, I've seen the ups and downs of many real estate markets, including the one we're in right now. With the spring market in full swing, now is the time to leap into the buying or selling of your home. Someday is not a day. Today is the day to make your move. Call me at 314-852-8933 or email me at markhardersells@gmail.com.
Hey, it's Vic, and I'm here with Kathy Connor at Connor Roofing. Kathy, what makes Connor Roofing different?
Hey, Vic. I'm glad that you asked. I think that what really sets Connor Roofing apart is our relationship with our customers. It's very important to us to develop that trust with the homeowner. This is what has allowed us to serve our friends and our neighbors in the St. Louis area for 30 years. Whether we are doing a roof or a gutter repair or even a full replacement, you can count on Connor for quality service and workmanship.
Thanks, Kathy. To find out more, visit them at connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
5:47 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Joy, is that from the famous wall of sound that crazy guy who killed his girlfriend came up with that technique? It sounds like a wall of sound.
You know what? It is Rolling Stones out of time, but it says it's a strings version. I don't know if it involves
Phil
crazy.
Spector.
Phil Spector.
Yeah, killed his girlfriend. All right, let's get to something a little more happier, like talking to our good friend Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. Chad, welcome back to the show. Tim and I were just talking about how long it's been since we've spoken with you.
Yeah, it's been a minute. How we doing, fellas?
Cannot complain. How about you, my friend? How's business?
It's okay. We're dancing in between tsunamis that apparently never seem to stop coming in St. Louis. So yeah, it's but business is good. It's spring's I think officially here, so things are picking up and we're busy.
One more question. So when it is rainy like this, can you cut down trees and do that type of work? Is it still safe?
It's safe. However, the problem is once they're on the ground, when the ground is just saturated, we just destroy all the turf and everything around it, just trying to get the material out. So typically it delays things a little bit. We got to give it a few days for the ground conditions to improve.
Chad, give folks a reminder. I mean, I talk about you every week, and it's an honor and a privilege. And thanks for sponsoring the Speaker Stump Speech we do every day as well. So people hear a lot about Hansen's Tree Service. But since we got the big dog on with us today, what is your elevator pitch to folks when you're telling them about Hansen's Tree Service and all the variety of things that it can provide, whether to residential or commercial customers?
Yeah, I mean, anything tree related, really. So if you have trees that you're looking to keep alive and sustain, if the canopy's looking thin or the leaves are turning yellow, or really anything that you're concerned about, we not only remove trees, we kind of look at that as a last ditch effort, but we prefer to keep them alive and keep them healthy and providing shade and beauty for your house. So we can treat them for pests and diseases. We can diagnose them. There's a lot of things we can do before the final end result of removal. So maintenance with pruning and trimming helps the longevity of your trees. And there's just, a lot of things in between there we can do. So, several arborists in the area, we'd love to have people come out. And if you got any questions, they can come out and take a look and send you a free estimate on anything you'd like done.
Speaking with Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. Chad, I can't remember what the particular disease was, but it was affecting a lot of trees in the St. Louis area. It got 2 of mine where we had to have them taken down because they were diseased. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but it seems to have died down. It's not as prevalent as it was before. Am I just imagining that?
Yeah, the emerald ash borers, like what you're
Yes,
talking about,
yes.
it was that's what stemmed a lot of like the rehab of the arch grounds. A lot of those trees were ash trees, so yeah, when that pest came through, it pretty much wiped out every ash tree in the area,
Wow.
unless it was treated preventatively. So, but yeah, it's basically hit what we call the mortality curve. So, it hit its peak about a year or two ago, and now either every tree that could be infected is dead and gone, or has been treated and isn't susceptible to the pest. So yeah, you're not seeing near as much of the decline as you did a couple of years ago.
Indeed. Talking to Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. Chad, if we don't talk about this lickety split, Aunt Debbie is going to be mad at both of us. She's probably listening. She says she listens to Chris and I every day. So your aunt Debbie McFarland, of course, the sister of your father, your late father, who was such a presence in the St. Louis region. I mean, Chad, I don't know that I ever met your dad, maybe once, but I felt like I knew him really well because he often spoke with our great friend, Jamie Allman, who we're so proud to have back here on our station with us. He's back home with the family. You guys are now hosting the 10th, and I can't believe it's been 10 years, 10th annual Jeff Hansen Memorial Foundation Sporting Clay event. This sounds like a great event, Chad. I'm going to definitely swing by this year and check everything out. Tell us, and shooting and hunting and sportsmanship was a big part of your dad's life and your life growing up, and it still is today. Tell us about the foundation. Tell us about the event.
Yeah, so we are approaching our 10th annual, which, like you said, is crazy. But yeah, my dad was a big outdoorsman. He loved sporting clays. He loved to do upland bird hunting, and any chance he had, he was always out there doing it. Loves teaching people, especially younger kids, how to get into the sport, and just something he was really passionate about. So, when we were trying to figure out something to do, from a memorial standpoint to raise funds, that's kind of what we came up with. And so yeah, we put this on every year, and all the funds go to local charities that either my dad was passionate about and had helped out in the past, or some new topics that we've taken up. And this year we're happy to be supporting the Freedom 13 organization, which a lot of you may know is in support of Jared Schmitz and the other 13 fallen at the Abbey Gates in Afghanistan several years ago. So it's a really neat organization to be involved with. So the proceeds from this year will go to that. We have, let's see, the date is May 17th. So it's coming up, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. And, we have some team spots still available. There's some sponsorships still available. So if anybody's interested, they can check us out at jeffhansenmemorialfoundation.com, and they can click the links and see what all is available.
Chad, I'm a big Second Amendment guy, but I've never been clay shooting. So say I come out there for the first time, what should I expect?
So basically, I explain sporting clays is almost like a round of golf with a shotgun. So there's a bunch of different stations that you travel around to. And at this particular venue we're going to, there's 14 stations, and you have anywhere from 4 to 6 shots at each station. And each shot is a different look. So you might have a crossing shot. You might have birds coming at you, away from you, bouncing clays on the ground like rabbits. It's just a bunch of different varieties of shots that you'll take. So it's pretty neat. Like I said, it simulates pretty much anything you could come across in the wild. In our particular event, all the shells are included. So all you need to do is show up and bring a shotgun. If you don't have a shotgun, there'll be plenty around that we can get you hooked up with. And even if you've never shot before, we tell people to come on out and we'll teach you. So there's only one way to learn, and that's to get in the box and do it. So it's a great event for children, for young and old. So everyone's invited.
10th annual Jeff Hansen Memorial Foundation Sporting Clay event. I'm looking at the flyer right now, Chad. Saturday, May 17th, right around the corner, the Black Hawk Valley Hunting Preserve. You get breakfast, You get all the clays, and I have done some sporting clays before. It is a lot of fun. You get all the clays, you get the shells, you get breakfast and lunch, and there's going to be, I think, a lot of great people out there. A lot of famous celebrities from around the region. I think State Senator Nick Schroer is planning on making an appearance, isn't he?
Yeah. He said he's going to pop in, so hopefully he can make it. And might be a few other local politicians that show up, so we'll see who makes it.
Anywhere there's people to shake hands, right?
That's it, right?
Chad, we got about a minute left, but tell us about the coordination with the Freedom 13 organization.
Yeah, so I got the pleasure of meeting Mark Schmitz a couple months ago, and just got to kind of hear his story. And obviously, I mean, I've heard all about Jared throughout the years, but you know, he and his wife have a real big mission to expand their freedom camps nationwide. So they just purchased their first location in Missouri not too long ago, and are getting that set up. But they have big ambitions to, like I said, make this nationwide and have a location in every state to basically provide a venue for veterans and people that have PTSD and all the above that served in our military, a place to kind of get away from the world and relax and recover. So it's a mission that I stand behind, my family stands behind, and something I know my dad would love to get behind as well. So we're all in on supporting these guys and helping them get started.
And that is Chad Hansen of Hansen's Tree Service. And we've been talking about the Hansen's Memorial Foundation Sporting Clay event on May 17th at the Black Hawk Valley Hunting Reserve. You can get more information at jeffhansenmemorialfoundation.com. Also, go to hansentree.com if you need some tree work. Chad, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and best of luck on the tournament next week.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. All right, Larry Connors, USA. Tim's coming up next. He's going to talk about Trump wanting to reopen Alcatraz and a good meltdown on CNN between two hosts. That's on Larry Connors, USA. Up next, you've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years.